What's up, runners, fitness freaks, and friends? It's time to strap on your favorite sneakers, hit the pavement, and gulp down another episode of We Run This like it's a cold cup of water on mile number 9. Our guest on the show today is Brandon Westover. Brandon is a fitness coach and endurance athlete and a 41-year-old father of 2 from Orlando who recently broke the record for the most Murph workouts in 24 hours. Brandon did 17 Murphs in a 24-hour time period, which is absolutely insane. Brandon decided to try and break this record during a 50-mile run around Orlando. 50 miles in the Florida heat, in the summer. It's absolutely bonkers. Brandon talks to us about his experience doing the Murphs, how he trained, his strategy for completing the running portion of the workout, and how the medical staff observing his record-breaking feat wanted him to stop immediately. We also discuss how his Murph record isn't actually recognized by the Guinness people because of the specific requirements necessary to call something a world record. In other words, they're like strict pain in the asses. So if you learn nothing else from this episode, you'll realize that the mind is the most incredible muscle in the body, and also that Murphs suck. So here's our talk with Brandon Westover. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of We Run This. I am Chris Illuminati. With me, as always, is Officer Nick Domingo. Nick, what's up, man?
How are you?
For those who are not watching, Nick has the worst cop mustache I've ever seen. It's like the sides aren't even growing in, dude. Like, what is going on?
I don't know. I think that it works. Like it's terrible. It's like one side's kind of dark, the other one's like light. I'm not a mustache guy, dude. I'm just not a mustache guy.
A few people I think can say,
but I'm working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facial hair.
I'm trying.
Yeah, you're trying. Facial hair is hard to pull off, and the guy we have on today, not only does he pull off great facial hair, he pulls off insane fits of like, I don't even want to, like, it makes me cringe just thinking about it. Brandon Westover. Brandon, what's up, man? How's it going?
Hey guys, I was a little nervous after that intro where that was going with the facial hair.
Well, you have a great beard, and I hope everybody watches the video to see it. We don't have you on today because of your beard, but we can talk about it. The reason we have you on is because we profiled you on the website a couple weeks ago, but you now hold, is it an actual, like, world record? Like, are you going to get something in the mail?
No, so it's funny that you say that. So one of the original guys who got it, I think originally a while back, I don't know how many years ago it was, but several of these guys have gotten that record since then, have reached out to me and talked to me on Instagram and stuff. They had actually applied. One of them had actually applied for it, and Guinness won't actually do it. So they have strict requirements around like one thing that they can actually measure, and that thing is really hard to measure.
All right, so we can talk
so
about
many different movements. There's distance. There's just a lot of things. It's hard to compare apples to apples unless you have a true like CrossFit certified thing that's measuring the distance and all that stuff.
Right. So we should backtrack and tell everybody that you did how many Murphs in 24 hours?
17.
Okay. So for those of the audience who are not familiar with the Murph, explain exactly what that is.
Sure. So it is, you have to have, first of all, a 20-pound vest if you're going to do it by the standard RX, and you have to do 1 mile run. After you're done with that 1 mile run, then you need to do, you can partition it or just do it straight up, but you essentially have to do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and then 300 air squats. When you're done with that, you get lucky enough to have to go do another mile. After you complete that mile, that is considered 1 Murph.
Okay.
Now, how long does it usually take like a normal person, say Chris or me, to do just 1 Murph? Because you did it over 17 hours, right? Or 17 in 24 hours.
I mean, I don't know you guys' fitness level, but we'll say the decent shape, average, we'll call CrossFitter would probably be able to do that in a normal one in about 45 minutes. That's a pretty good athlete. If you can do it in 45 minutes, that's pretty good. Anything less than that, you're pretty good shape, to do it less than that.
I did it in 46
without a vest,
something.
even faster.
I've tried it once. I did it in 46 something.
Yeah, that's really good.
So Nick, I'm way better than you.
Oh, I mean, dude, I'm an hour 46 probably. I have no upper body strength. Everything is my legs.
You could probably be better at it if you shaved your mustache.
I think the mustache gives me strength. I think I would see my reflection like, you got it, bro.
Is that what it is? Okay. So, walk us through why you did it. Like, do you like Murphs? Like, why? Take us to the journey of why you decided to do it.
Sure. I mean, it's anybody who does CrossFit, if they've done it for a while, I mean, it's a very standard movement or WOD that you'll do during Memorial Weekend. Almost every CrossFit gym will do that. So I had done CrossFit for, I don't know, here and there for the last 5-7 years. So I had done it numerous times, and most of those movements, the movements in the middle, we won't call the running. I was already pretty good at running, but the movements in the middle, there's another WOD that's very similar to that, that uses those movements called Cindy, and I'm very good at those movements. So that was a lot of it was working on those movements. So I was already good at them. And as far as what triggered me to actually do this challenge was probably no different than you're giving Nick some hard time here with his mustache. It was, hey, I wanted to see how fast I could do it without a vest on in the last Memorial Day. And my friends and my brother were giving me a hard time. Like, oh, you got to do it with the vest on. I'm like, well, I've already done that many times with the vest. Like, what does it matter? And they're like, well, it's not considered RX. I'm like, and that's not what I'm trying to attain. I want to see how fast I can do it if I just take the vest off. And my goal was to do it in 30 minutes. And I said, you know what, just to, mess with you guys, I'll go ahead and take I think I said 5-minute rest. I took a little more than 5-minute rest, but I'll just do it, RX right after that. That somehow led me down to that crazy road.
Got it.
And you just did this in like September, right? Like, I know when we profiled you, our colleague Cass did I guess an interview with you, and you said that you got to the gym at like 4 p.m. It said 98 degrees on your temperature gauge on your car for the outdoor temp. Like, when you see that, where does your mind go, man?
Well, I had already had most things I planned for. I don't care how much you plan, everything you do, it just never goes as planned. So because I already knew I was doing it later than usual, I already knew I was going to have problems with sleeping. So I had it all planned out, how I was going to sleep beforehand, tried to do that. I was able to lay down, but I didn't actually sleep. So I hadn't actually slept since the night before. It was getting hot. Obviously, I was paying attention to the temperature throughout the week, just crossing my fingers that it was going to not be, that there was going to be some rain, and it kept going back and forth. We get in the car. I hadn't been outside yet, so I was just kind of crossing my fingers. We get in the car, and I'm like, just the walk there, which is really quick. I'm like, it sure seems hot. We're driving over there, and I'm looking. I'm like, it is 98 in here. I'm like, oh my God. So I already knew, I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of things in Florida in hot weather, but I just thought, wow, okay, I got to last at least several hours, because it's hot until about 7 o'clock. So I'm like, I got to last several hours in this heat. This is not going to be fun. And it was not.
It was not. So looking at the Murph challenge itself, I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like most people would look at it and they would say, okay, it's a timed thing. So the best places I'm going to pick up time or save time is going to be the runs. But I feel like starting a run with a 20-pound vest on and trying your fastest is going to gas you immediately. So that would seem like the wrong thing to do. Am I right there?
That is correct. That is exactly the opposite of what you want to do, and exactly what I did. So I'm a very analytical person. I analyze things, and I had prepared a lot. I'm good at math. So I had done a lot of computations in my head of how to do this. I had done lots of trial runs. I sadly, even though I've done a lot of running races and things like that, I don't actually use a watch or anything to keep track of my pace or whatever. I kind of just know it as I run it. I don't know if it was adrenaline or what, but the goal was I can run 7.5 minute mile very comfortably. Even with the vest on, it's not, it's starting to get kind of hard. But 8 minutes is really easy. 8.5, I'm starting to get like very, talking. That was the goal, was run like 8.5. And I started out, and of course we knew what time I started because we started exactly 5. I come back in and it's 5:07, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know how many seconds it was, but I'm like, okay, well, I already started that off wrong. And so, yeah, if you go too fast in the run, you might think you're going to gain a lot, which compared to most people, that's where I would gain time. If we were going to do it, like, say you said, do 8 in a row, I would gain a good amount because they might be running 10-minute miles and I'm running, 8-minute miles or less. But we'll call it Cindy. It's the stuff in the middle where you gain tons of time, because if you're able to do it back to back with no rest, you're just think about how much time Cindy's 20 rounds. So if you're doing 20 rounds and you waste a minute each time, that's 20 minutes you wasted. Well, who cares about 4 minutes on 2 runs? Like 20 minutes is the one where.
Right.
So talk about like what you ate, not necessarily right before you did this. I'm interested in that too, but when you're training, obviously, I mean, you're not just diving into the deep end, I wouldn't imagine, doing this. So what are you eating regularly to fuel yourself both before, during, and obviously after for recovery?
Yeah, so I would definitely say I'm not a professional runner by any means, and not a professional, even though I do a lot of endurance things where I'll do them really long, I'll say I'm more gritty. So if anybody has seen like David Goggins and read that book where he talks about like his first really long run and how he prepared for it, I'd say I did a lot more than that, but I'm not too far off. So I do a lot of research online. I looked up all kinds of stuff, and even in my practice, I'm like, well, how do the best people do it? And it's kind of hard to compare because they're talking about running, and I'm running and doing all this extra stuff. So it's like hard to compare. But through the trial runs, most of it was obviously on the lead up, like a week and a half before, just a lot of carbs. So I like spaghetti and stuff like that. So I just loaded up on carbs. I eat well generally all the time, but I just loaded up on carbs. I mean, like, enough that I think I gained about 3 pounds throughout the week just preparing for that. And I had done 10 before that and felt great. Like I was eating throughout, and I was like, okay, I got it. This is exactly how. Well, of course, temperature was better then. This one, I did the same exact plan. I ate the same things, 2 hours before the thing started. I ate, I want to say it was about 1,000 calories, oatmeal, things that I normally eat, and just maybe had extra servings of them. Made sure I went to the restroom. So I was set. I then had tons of stuff prepared. I had lots of, like the normal folks, gels. I had special nutrition stuff or electrolytes, salt tablets, food. I had my wife made all kinds of bacon and watermelon and cantaloupe, anything you could possibly think of, I had there ready for me.
Break down for us, we're going to get back to the food in a minute, but break down for us, I'm interested how you did the actual Murph. Like when I did mine, I was like, okay, I suck at pull-ups, so I'm going to do like 10 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 20 squats, because I knew I could get the squats out of the way. How did you break down yours?
Yeah, so even that, like I had analyzed that a lot and probably did it more unusual than most people would do it, just because I analyzed it so much with my body and knew what I could handle. So most people would do the 5, 10, 15 is how they do it. And so I even adjusted that, because honestly, the hardest thing, if anybody's going to try to do this, it's the air squats. Everything else to me is easy. I won't say easy. I don't want to exaggerate that, but it's my body can handle that. The air squats, and I'm talking like CrossFit certified, legit, below parallel air squats. That's where it gets you. So I split that in half, essentially half. So I did 8 and then 7. So I did 5 pull-ups, 8 air squats, 10 push-ups, 7 air squats. That's how I did it. Because the thought was that once you get the lactic acid buildup in your quads, it's really hard, and you got to think you're going to do this over. You're doing 5,000 air squats, so you got to really think about that. And it's so much easier to stop before you hit it. Once you've hit it, if you try to do that 12, 13, 14, 15, you won't get as far, in my opinion.
What's go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Nick, you go first because I'm going to go back to the hardest thing for me is pull-ups. But Nick, you go first. You might have the same question.
Well, I was going to ask, what the hardest part of it was for you, and when in that moment of doing all this, did it kind of hit you that you're like, now I'm fatigued? I mean, obviously you're pushing yourself through. You have a goal, but at what point during all this were you like, fuck, like, I don't know if I'm going to finish and reach my goal because I had to do the air squats or I had to do the pull-ups or whatever. Like, did that happen?
Sure. So I'll just to get to that point, I'll just answer, because when I say stuff is easy, let me say why some of that stuff was easy. So when I first trained for this, the time that I said I did 2, what started hurting actually the most was my hands. So my hands were starting to rip. I didn't have the right grips and whatnot. So that was very painful. So that was the one that I thought I could never do just because I didn't think my hands could handle it. So figured out that problem. Then I went from the hands to it was actually nutrition. I had trouble. I tried to do 4, and I had a real hard time consuming whatever. Practiced that, got past that point. Then it was the legs. That to me was the hardest one. Just I guess it's because my age and I hate stretching. I'm very inflexible. I can't even come. I'm probably this far away from the ground if I try to stretch. Like I'm kidding. That's how inflexible. So I researched all types of stretching. That worked. I did that for 45 days straight, just stretching. So I was prepared to do everything. I get there, and to answer the question about when did I think I was fucked, it was pretty much round 2, because I was already overheating in round 1, right? And it probably took about round 2, which would have been about 50-minute mark, right? I'm used to working out 2-3 hours, maybe a day. So that it was right at that point that I was essentially redlining most of the time. And I started feeling sick. I puked. And it's not that I didn't think I was going to get it, but I was like, oh crap, like, is there something wrong? Like, is this going to go away? And it did that for basically 3 more hours. And I was like, I actually told.
Wait. So you did through 1 round, and you did 17 of these. After 1 round, you barfed and basically were like, 3 hours of shit lasted?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd say a lot of it come from practice of other stuff. So I'll go back to, one of them, I guess I call him hero, like David Goggins. If you read a lot of his stuff and you watch a lot of his stuff, and just in general, even like the whole Murph story, right? Like you see these things, you hear them, and then you try them. I had once ran 50 miles, which was just around my house. I have a half-mile loop around my house. I did that on just a whim. I was like, I'm going to do this. I think I was on, I have to go back. I'm probably going to say this wrong. It was either mile 3 or mile 7. I hurt my leg to where I started limping to where I could barely move. And I already told everybody, I'm finishing this thing. And I eventually finished it. And so these type of things led up to that. I don't know that I had experienced the same type of thing, but yes, I secretly said to her on the side, I was like, you're going to have to eventually call this, because I will not. Like, if you see me like dying, you're going to have to call it, because I don't know, like, I'm the type of person that'll probably just keep going and not realize like what's happening to me.
How many people did you tell beforehand that you were going to do this?
We told a lot, because we had an in-house competition. So what wasn't a competition? It was like an event. So it was like advertising it. So before that, only a couple people knew that I was doing it on the side. And as I was doing it, I was essentially cataloging what I was doing. So I would send it, even though probably most of my friends had no idea what I was talking about. But I would just put like a daily update, like with a picture of my times, did 8 Murphs in 7.5 hours or something like that, right? So I was steadily doing that stuff for a while. And some of those people might have known I said I was training for, but it probably wasn't until I was coordinating with the gym owner, like, hey, I'm going to do this. We need to set up an event. And so at that point, he set up a, public event telling people, hey, he's going to break this, he's going to attempt to break this. And we, at that point, everybody in our gym and pretty much all of my, friends and family knew.
So how did you get into wanting to do this? I mean, you mentioned, doing the half-mile loop for 50 miles around your neighborhood, which is insane to think you're just going around, and you could have stopped, but you didn't. How did you go from running? Like, talk about your experience from, a runner competitively into kind of switching to say, I'm going to push myself more doing this type of challenge and the CrossFit stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, probably CrossFit was, I don't know if I'd say CrossFit was first. I did a lot of, many years ago, I've always been athletic, but I did a lot of home programs, fitness programs like P90X and things like that. And I was always pretty elite at most of that stuff. When they were doing it, I was usually doing more reps than they were doing. So through that, I was doing a lot of running. Running for me at the time, a lot was 5 to 7 miles. I was a lot. I never ran when I was younger. So I got kind of a little bit of an itch there with running. And then once I did CrossFit, we would have random challenges in our gym where they would just say, run as many miles as you can in a month. Well, I'm the type of competitive person that when you give me a challenge, I'm like, oh, okay. So I ran 200.
No, you're not. You don't seem like that at all, dude. Not at all.
And I honestly didn't know how much I ran, but I ended up running 258 miles. For me, that is maybe to these people who can run 200 miles in one race, they might not think that much, but for me, I'm like, wow, that is amazing.
For 90% of people, that's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm injury prone, so that was not just sweet, taking my jog. It was, I'd have weeks where I would have, that knee has about 10 different pain points that I seem to find no matter what I do. But as I started doing more endurance stuff in CrossFit, I do competitions and things like that. In CrossFit, it's always pushing me. So if I see something right now, if somebody sent me something and they said, hey, you want to do this? I'm looking at it from analytical, could I do it? And if it's even this breaking thing, yeah, I thought I could do it, but I wasn't sure. It needs to be I think I can do it. And if it's something I'll go do, and if my mind just wants to do it, I'll do it.
Let's talk about, so a majority of people that listen to us are runners. Let's talk for a minute about, it's a topic that we've never really discussed here, running with a vest on. Would you suggest that for the average person? Tossing a vest on and getting out there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see with a vest that fits you, that's a proper vest, sure, because I don't really see any harm in it. I can only see advantages. Most of our gym now is getting vests. So I think they've sold 16 in the last month because everybody wants a vest. There's lots of competitions with them, but as you run with it, when you get used to it, when you take it off, it's so much easier. You're so much faster. You can do so much more. So even though it might suck in the very beginning, I don't care how much weight you put on. You can put 5 pounds on you. It's going to suck in the beginning. But if you get a form-fitting one that fits on there snugly, that's not bouncing up and down and whatnot, you get used to it. And now I'm sure some of your people have seen ruck races and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They put considerable amount of weight on their backs. But yeah, 20 pounds, I think it's great.
Along those same lines, when you started, and I don't know if you did this, so I could be wrong, but running with a weighted vest, did you see the time improvement for you? Did you do the 50 miles or even the 5 or 7 that you had talked about kind of dabbling in at the beginning? Did you do that? You tried the vest, and then you took the vest off and you saw what your improvement was. I'm just interested to hear, if that happened, what your time actually improved to. Because that's a great way to obviously shed time, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I had, even though I'm the type of person who would be looking at that at the time, when I started wearing a vest a lot, I wasn't motivated to improve my 5K time or my mile run or anything like that. I know my mile run had gotten better, and I'm certainly, like most of your audience is probably going to be, runners. They're going to be really fast. So like for me, like I can run a 6-minute mile. Like that's, fast for most CrossFitters, but it's not very fast for runners. So in an awkward form, really short strides, I can run a 6-minute mile. Probably before with the vest, I would have been probably 6:15 or something like that. I can say from the Murph challenge, like if I did it now, I'd probably do it even faster because I've done so much of it. But I was probably 35 minutes before with a vest on. I took the vest off and I think I did it in 30:30. I'm pretty confident I could go under 30 now because my condition is even better. But that's a lot of it. That's what it improves. It's almost like simulating that you weighed more, right? And you like, even when I tell my clients, like once you lose the weight, you're so much faster because you don't have all that extra, weight on you.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
In the middle of the competition, I always like asking this question. In the middle of doing it all, did you have any type of like out of body experience or a moment where you were just kind of like not there?
I probably was often that I was not aware that I was not there, but yeah, I mean, there was definitely points. It was because my mood changed quite a bit. I do watch a lot of documentaries, and probably a lot of your audience does as well. I love watching like endurance documentaries, and you'd be surprised how many are free out there to go watch. And I've watched so many of those where this happens, where, they just break down or they have these, they swings mildly within like a couple minutes. Mine weren't that fast, but I had so many emotions that would go from one to another throughout the 24 hours where my brain's always thinking. I'm like looking at the time, thinking of the time. And I had so much planning on where my pace needed to be to get there that I would freak out in the very beginning because I got too hot and I'm throwing up. I cannot consume any. And I'm sitting there doing the math in my head. I'm like, I'm probably burning 800 to 1,000 calories an hour. And I'm consuming 50. Like, how is this going to work? From there, it went to like in the middle of the night with the right people too. I had so many people that were helping me along. And you see this in the community runners as well, that I was not, I was down. And I had them right next to me sitting there going, oh, just keep going. And, and it wasn't fake. They really were like, you got to do this. And it helped. They would even with tips. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And that helped me a lot. My wife there, my moods would swing quite a bit. And at night is when it really helped because pretty much no one was there. It was very cool. The weather was great. And I had, people I'm really close with, they were sitting there, we were goofing off and they were keeping me on track. They were speeding me along. And it was at that point, it was like, oh, I'm going to break this easily. Like they were sitting there going, okay, now you got to go for 20. I know I have zero interest in getting 20 right now.
Easy for them to say.
Yeah, I'm just happy to finish this because I thought I was going to have to quit on, hour 4. So I'm super happy that I'm going to finish. So there was a lot of that back and forth.
So we always talk about the mental benefits of any workout. I mean, obviously we're a running podcast, so we talk about it relating to running, but it sounds like you're obviously like a certified badass and you've got a pain threshold as if you've got like a fucking knife in your leg and you're like, I'm going to keep going. How do you get that ability? I mean, I think we all like to think that we push ourselves, we're competitive. It sounds like you're just on another level. So can you talk about where that kind of inner drive comes from? And is it inherent or is it something you develop? Just curious to hear what you think.
I'd say it's a little bit of both. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some, like genetically you might be born with some a little more than others, but I definitely think probably on the latter that you can develop it is probably, I favor that more. Probably helped. I grew up with a lot of brothers and we were very competitive. We were all very athletic. I was the second oldest. So I was always having to do, basically competing with my older brother and I had a younger brother. We were all about a year and a half apart. So we were constantly doing stuff. And from that, I think I got a lot of grit just from I did wrestling in junior high and things. So you start to gain a little bit of that and just watching other people. My personality is seeing other people go through things, whether it's physical or even mental, and seeing how they react. Like, it's like, well, it could be worse. That's my thought on almost everything. Like, if I'm complaining about this, it's like, Well, I mean, Goggins was having, like, his whole leg was off and he was still moving. Like, what's your excuse? So I guess that's where most of mine comes from. It's just trying to visualize what are other people going through and just thinking, well, they probably had it worse and nobody's shooting at you. You know, your life's not on the line, but what's your excuse not to finish?
I'm a big believer that a lot of people can't get to the next level of whatever they're doing, running, CrossFit, weightlifting, because they get to the uncomfortable and they decide to go back. But you seem to get to the uncomfortable and keep going. So what would your suggestions be to people, like, when you reach that uncomfortable point, not to let yourself go back, to like move forward?
Yeah, I mean, definitely is almost always up in your head, right? It's always in your head. You're always thinking of something and trying to talk yourself out of it. And even when you say, like, I'm a badass, I'm on another level, like, trust me, there's always other bigger badasses. So when I think badasses, I think of like top tier CrossFit guys like Frazier and whatever. You watch those guys and I'm like, how do they do it? Like, they're going 99 mile an hour for 10 straight minutes. Like, I can go 95. How's he going 99? But most of it's in their head, right? For me, it's in my head. I constantly am thinking 1 foot forward, keep going. And honestly, I talk a lot of shit to myself. Like, if I had a recorder and people were listening to me, like, I call myself a bitch, a pussy, whatever. I'm constantly around there going, calling myself, come on, you got to do it. So that works for me. I don't know if that would work for everybody else, but I definitely think it's usually like, it's the second you've quit in your mind, like where you give yourself an out, usually you will take it. That's what it is.
What's the meanest thing you ever said to yourself?
It's usually the same things over and over again. I don't know if I'm that creative with things, but it's usually just quit being a little bitch. Let's go. And, you know, that's usually what it is. Quit being a little bitch.
Do you say it out loud or in your head?
Oh, yeah. Almost usually out loud most of the time. Yeah.
Do people think that you're talking to somebody else or usually alone?
It's you get in a fight on your run.
Like people think
I'm talking to me. I'm talking to me.
Do people in your CrossFit class think you're calling them a pussy? Like, how does it go?
No, I mean, it's not so much. I'm not like Ronnie Coleman out there, like, wait, baby, just yelling out as loud. It's just once in a while I might, like, if I think it's going to make a difference, if I yell a little louder. But most of the time, it's just kind of like, even though my inner voice is always talking to myself, it will take a little bit. I actually have to say it out loud. Like, it's just like, come on, we're being a little bitch. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's about it. But no, I'm not sure that anybody's ever heard me, and they'd probably think I was crazy if they probably thought I would be talking about them. But no,
So you've talked about, your clients and your fitness, you're a trainer and all that. How important is it for you to stress patience and trusting the process? Because, what you kind of back to what you said, it's all in your head and there's always another level. And I think Chris's question about that uncomfortable, a lot of us get to, I'm running a 7:05 mile time. I've improved in the past year and a half from 7:45 or 7:55. I think this is my max. Like, this is where I am. And you don't push yourself, right? So I love that question that Chris asked. How do you approach it as like, this is not going to happen tomorrow? If you're looking to compete with me to do this Murph challenge, or even just one Murph to complete it, or run a 5K to go to marathon, like, how important is that? And that you get that across so that they avoid injury, disappointment, and just giving up.
Yeah, I mean, at least for my clients or even for myself, like, I think setting realistic goals and not, in the very beginning is usually where most people get wrong, is just trying to set too high of a goal. So if they want to go from 740 to 705, just take that, small increments at a time. Don't try to get there too fast. And a lot of my clients, a lot of it's just losing weight, right? And just, we're in this habit of trying to do things too fast. It's like, you want to Google that quick fix so I can get abs in 7 days. And it's like, if you think about it in a year, most people, even if you're 50 pounds overweight, 1 year, 1 pound a week, that's 52 pounds. Like, you want to do something that you can do for the rest of your life. Stop doing something that's just going to get you there for a little bit and you're going to go right back. So it's being patient, just trusting what you're doing. So long as you trust the information and the person who's giving it to you, if the person's giving it to you can show that they can do that, right? Like if your trainer is really hefty and they're not, they're eating all bad food and they're not following what they're saying, can you believe what they're saying? I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. But for me, if I see that person and they're able to do it and they're following that and I trust that system, then it's, I just have to stay on them. I can be very naggy. So I'll nag the crap out of them every week, making sure that they're following the guidelines and, doing what they need to do to get there.
So you're completed all the Murphs. It's done. You're done. Walk us through how you felt in that moment.
Well, it obviously got not as exciting as I had pictured in my head about times. It was supposed to be, yeah, I finished, right? And hey, I'm going to go all 24 hours. As you know, we stopped beforehand because of, physical problems that I was having with internally. Outside, I felt fine, to be honest. The last round was one of my faster times, and I felt like I could do that. I had enough time to do one more round like that. So in my mind, because I knew that 3 rounds ahead of time, I had already wrapped my head around it. It was like, okay, I'm just going to beat the record. We'll stop there. Everybody's going to be happy. I'll be happy. And still in my mind, I'm competitive. I'm like, God damn it, I didn't get to where I originally wanted to. But it was, as we were leading up to that, because I was experiencing the issues with like early onsets of rhabdo, that I was, telling other people like, hey, I'm a little worried about this. I've never actually had it happen, but people have warned me zillions of times about this. So I'm somebody who doesn't go to the hospital ever. Like, should I be worried about this? They were ready to cut it off. Like, we were on round 14 and I'm like, fuck off. No way am I quitting this. And so they're calling people left and right, trying to get, remote IVs and whatnot, talking to every doctor that they knew. And these people are like, you can stop him. He has to stop. He's going to die or whatever. And I'm like, I am finishing this. There's no way that if I just do this walking for the next, 3 rounds, that I'm going to die. So knock on wood, that didn't happen. But so as that was going, I was already prepared, right? Like I already knew that. As soon as we were done, they called an ambulance to go and do IV, and that was that. So I didn't get to experience, I had a lot of people there. There was a lot of people there, so I didn't get to experience as much as I wanted as far as hanging out and kind of, enjoying it. But as far as once I actually finished, I mean, it's kind of an out-of-body experience. It was just like something I had planned for that I knew that if I accomplished it, it was going to be very, impactful for me personally. Like, I don't care what happens after that, but it was something that I was not sure that I could do and that I had to fight like, tooth and nail pretty much all 24 hours. So I was pretty, as proud of myself as I could be, I guess.
So what's next for you? You've accomplished this. So what are you looking forward to push yourself and try and accomplish next?
Sure. So I had, I go back to some of the people who've contacted me who've done the record and stuff like that before, which is kind of funny, like here and there. And then cool guys. One of the guys is like huge into the same guy who had applied for Murph before and they would not do it. This same guy is like telling me the process of Guinness and one of the records he was going to break. And I won't say which one in case he doesn't want me to, but he's trying to get me into it. And I didn't know the process at all. So I'm like, he explained it. It's very easy. So I've applied for some very quirky ones that are, for me, very easy to beat. So I plan on doing that. But my gym has told me that we were going to be doing some more 24-hour challenges like this. So we'll I'm not sure exactly which one, but Murph is the most popular hero WOD, but there's lots of heroes out there in hero WOD. So we'll probably pick one that, no one's done before and, that suits my capabilities, and we'll do that. And the gym loves it. The gym spreads it out and does, everybody gets involved. So it's a great experience.
Is there anything you look at athletically and you just go, nah, not me?
Yeah, I'm not a great swimmer. I'm not terrible, but like lots of people have asked me to do like a triathlon and stuff like that, but just I don't think I've ever swam more than a couple laps in a pool. So that I guess I had, even though I've done like snorkeling, and I used to scuba dive before I had ear surgery. I don't know, something about a fear of drowning, like doing triathlons, it does interest me, but I have a fear of that I'm just like, nah, I can find other things to do.
I like that you're doing the Murph challenge and people are literally like, give him IVs, he's going to die. And you're like, but I don't want to jump into a pool. That's like,
yeah.
You're like, I'm not going to die.
Everyone,
But the pool scares the shit out of you.
yeah, there's everybody's got their things they're not good at. I mean, I would never choose anything, like, I'm still intelligent about it. I'm not going to just choose if somebody says, hey, because I will do things on challenges, not stupid things. But if somebody's like, hey, I want you, well, I'll give an example. You guys had a guy on, you guys showed me a video of a guy doing the bear crawl, right?
Devin. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
For a marathon. That's one. There's a perfect one. That is one that I'm pretty confident that I would not do.
Right. None of us would.
Sure I want to do it for
Yeah,
a
you and
mile.
99.9% of people. Devin's the only person in the world.
No one wants to do it.
So if you said, hey, I don't even know if I could do it for a mile, but if there was money involved and you say, hey, I'll do it, I don't even know how much money you have to offer me. Like, I couldn't imagine trying to do that. So I'm just like anybody else. When I see something, I'm just like, no way I'm doing that. No way I'm doing that.
Nice. Well, Brandon, it's great talking to you. Why don't you tell us all about your coaching thing? Let's talk about that so we can get some plugs in here.
Sure. So I do fitness coaching. So my program, as you can see on the shirt, if you
I like that shirt.
Video, my wife does all my shirts. So it's called Fit as Me with Coach B. I'm Coach B.
I like
It's
it.
a family thing. My wife helps out as well as my brother. We do essentially, most clients want to lose weight, so that's fine, right? We get them to lose weight, but also focus on fitness. So that fitness can be anything. So it could just be gaining muscle, building muscle, or it could be, I've had clients who just want to, walk a mile for the first time ever, or run a 5K. I had a client did a Murph for the first time, right, during our actual Murph thing. So the goal of the program is, most of them is to lose weight and get in better shape. But the point of it is to do something that's going to last a lifetime. We don't want to we're teaching you tricks so that you can eat the food that you want, stay at the weight that you want, and you can control it and maintain it without feeling like you're, restricting yourself from those things that you enjoy.
Cool.
Very cool. And then where can people find you, whether it's online, social, all that good stuff?
Sure. So Instagram, or you can go to Facebook. It's Fit as Me with Coach B, and just shoot a message out there. Most of my content on the Fit as Me sites is either myself or transformations of my clients. But feel free to reach out to get more information about the program and see if it'll interest you.
Awesome. Brandon, we
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely have you on again when you do your next challenge, whatever it is. It'll probably be nuts, and we'll have you on again to talk about it after the fact.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
And that brings another episode of We Run This to a close. Nick and I want to thank everybody for listening. If you love the podcast, please share it with friends or leave a review on iTunes. And remember to follow Nick and I on social media. He's at It's Nick Domingo, and I'm at Chris Illuminati on Twitter. Or follow us both on Instagram at WeRunThis_pod. Until next time, see everybody out there.